My name is Fong. You can just call me Fong. I'm the Executive Director of LGMS, a security service company that is based in Malaysia. Unlike cybersecurity, we are a for-profit-based organization. Cybersecurity is non-profit-based, we are profit-based. So it's a private security firm. Our specialties is in providing specialized security services like penetration testing, computer crime investigation, digital forensics, and mostly security-related activities. So the topic I have today is security as a market enabler, not a roadblock. So what I will share with you in the presentation is that some of the recent cases of security hackings, some recent impacts, what we have seen, and also going to share with you some of the standards right in the industry that could be applicable to your industry as well. Right. So without further ado, let's move on to the next slide. Oh, here. Okay. I have my own version. So, right. So before we start, let's have a short quiz. Right. Can anyone here tell me which one of these here is a hacker?
Simpson.
This guy's a hacker. This guy's the most obvious one. He's not a hacker. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, I regard him as a hacker, but he's not hacking computers kind of hacker. He's a kind of hacking the martial art hacker, right? He formed a new martial art training system, but obviously he's not a hacker that we're looking for.
All the girls
right? This guy? Yeah, this guy is obviously he's not a hacker, he's just an actor. I know that a lot of you will regard him as a hacker, but he's not a hacker. So this gentleman here, Kevin Mitnick, he was one of the most wanted hacker in the United States back in the 90s by the FBI. So, but would you be surprised if I tell you that this lady here, she's a hacker, and she was caught in 2010 by working with a group of Russians and Eastern Europeans by hacking into the bank. She was caught in 2010. This lady, a Polish hacker, she speaks in Black Hat Vegas, a conference that is organized by Hackers for Hackers, right? This lady, a hacker from China, she teaches hacking, and she released a lot of tutorials. She developed tools, released tools. She also providing cracking services. Like if you have a piece of software, you want to make full use of a software with free features and all that, so she's the one that you should look for, right? This lady, she's a model for a magazine most gentlemen here will know, called Playboy. She's a model and she is a hacker as well, right? So this lady here, anyone knows this lady? She was quite famous back in 2010. Russian, yeah, she's a Russian spy, Anna Chambat. She was caught and she was sent back to Russia in exchange for, it's part of the prisoner exchange. Right, so in a way, she's also a hacker. So what's the moral of the story here? Look can be very deceiving, right? Right. Some people, we take a look at it, we know, okay, this guy obviously is not a hacker. He could be a drug or what. But all of these beautiful girls here, in a way, is a hacker. And especially some of these, like this lady, she's very active in providing education. These two, very active. Right? Their look can easily melt any firewall. Do you agree with me? Right? So if you want to know more about these ladies here, do a Google. Go to look for some keywords like hottest female hackers. Then you'll find their stories. Okay? So what I'm saying is that nowadays anyone can become a hacker. Anyone can do damage to organizations, from within your organizations, from beyond organizations. So basically, we are dealing with enemies ourselves every day, right? Internally within organizations or outside. So that brings me to the next slide. So exactly on the same day, 25th, 2 months ago. Today is 25th, right? Today? Yeah. Exactly on the same day, 2 months ago, 5 individuals, as part of the Russian gang, was indicted in the US for hacking one of the largest, in fact, so far it's the largest, it's not one of the largest, it's the largest scheme, right, to prosecute it in the US history. Right? So what did these 5 people do? right? What they did was they charged the attack on many national level businesses, right, in the US, and just 3 of these organizations alone, right, they suffer more than 300 millions of losses in US dollars. Just 3. You just imagine how many organizations that hit. Right? So exactly 2 months ago, right, and this 5 gentlemen was indicted. So that also, the case also brought up some very interesting facts. So you see, when these guys hack into a bank, hack into a credit card company, trading security firms, what do they after? Right, they're after the black market currency, which is credit cards, right? Credit card numbers, personal records, right? Individual details. So how did they do it? How did they do it? I mean, how did they manage to hack into all these different organizations? Surprisingly, from the case itself, right, we found that the most common type of attacks happens on applications layer, which is SQL injections. Now, let me tell you honestly, if you and your organizations today are still susceptible to SQL injection, you are deserved to be hacked. Would you agree with me? Right? SQL injection is nothing new. It's been there for forever. So if your organization or if your application is still susceptible to SQL injection, that means you deserve to be hacked anyway. So they were also using sniffers. They developed their customized sniffers planned into the web teams organizations, sniffing traffic, and they also developed their own malware. They use card cloners to clone credit cards. But all you can know from here is that nothing they used was really high tech. Seriously, right? To pull off a hack like this, right? Which is the largest scheme in the US history so far. They're not using very high tech equipment. These people are not special genius. They are smart, but they're not genius and they're using high tech equipment. So that means also another moral of the story is that anyone with access to this information, these tools, right, can do equivalent damages to your organizations, to our organizations, right? So another interesting fact was that you see when these people found the credit card numbers, obviously they need to sell the credit card numbers to get a profit, right? So from the record, from the study that is conducted by the Department of Justice, so they found that, okay, if they sell the credit card belongs to a European, they can fetch about $50 per card. Right? If they sell the credit card that belongs to a Canadian, they can get 15. So surprisingly, the lowest worth is US credit cards, $10 per piece. Right? So the next question is, okay, if let's say criminals hacked into the bank, hacked into the credit card companies, they got the credit cards information, how are they going to make profit out of it, right? So these people, they have a very organized way to do business. They also go through normal reseller channels, just like legal security, right? You have a principal, which are these 5 gentlemen here, right? Principal have a bunch of cards numbers, they look for resellers. Reseller will exist in the forums, in public discussions. Right? Reseller will approach the end users. So the principal will never sell to go direct to end users. Principal will sell to reseller. Right? So it's a very organized kind of business model. Right? So some other events, like recently we have, I think this one was quite well known, in fact in 2010 as well. 2011, 2010, Sony lost 170 millions. Sony network was hacked. Right? The availability of the network also affected millions of people worldwide. Right? And I, for one, is one of the victims. Right? My credit card numbers was exposed, and someone was using my credit card numbers to do shopping. I feel pain. Right? So you have others like Citigroup, AT&T, Stratford, Vodafone, and these are just monetary losses. These are quantifiable losses. But what about unquantifiable losses like images, the image market share, right? Customers' confidence, reputations, all of these add up to be very scary, right? Instead of just looking at the money value. So, will good security practices cost that much? That's something like a CSO will always have to do to justify to the CEO. How much we need to spend to protect ourselves. It's always a challenge for CSO to quantify it, right? So now that you can use these slides to quantify to CEO, I think it's a step forward. right? So we always have a good challenge of how to prove that whatever countermeasures that we are putting in really worth the value, right? So what is a good security? So on what we have to understand, security, we always have to be secure, but at the same time, we also need to maintain anything that we have implemented, maintain our business operation is still workable, so it still have to be usable, and of course, this is a C word that everyone will be focused on, cheap, right? So where is the ideal area of making a balance out of this secure, usable, and cheap, right? If the solution is too cheap, it may not be usable, may be too far away from usable, may not be too far away from secure. If a solution is too secure, may not be close to usable, it could be very expensive. So you always have to strike a balance within this triangle. Right? It's always a very challenging triangle that I used to show this to our clients, right, to our partners, how to strike a balance. Okay, security as an enabler. I'm going to show you several standards which is quite prominent in Malaysia. Basically, our HQ, LGMS HQ is in Malaysia. However, we do have worldwide-based clients, but I'm going to share with some of the case studies we are seeing in Malaysia. So perhaps I can apply to Vietnam, to other countries as well. So ISO 27001 is a big phenomenon in Malaysia. Basically, the Malaysian government have actually issued a memo to all the critical national infrastructure operators, CNII operators, like water operators, electricity, energy, banking sectors, to comply with ISO 27001, which I think is a novel initiative. So ISO 27001 is the best practices of building information security, managing information security. You also demonstrate that your management commitment towards security, right? If you comply to 27001, that means you also perform some form of risk assessment, some form of risk management, right? At the same time, provide overall security protection for your information asset. In fact, this is the most critical part of the ISMS, the 27001, provide protection of the information assets. So what are the benefits? I know that 27001 is a big thing in Japan. If you look at the statistics, the most country that have received ISO 27001 certifications is in Japan, at least several hundredfold compared to others. Right? So if you want to do any business with Japanese organizations, right, get certified. Right? That will put you in a better position. Who other can benefit from getting certified in 27001? We, for one, as a security consulting firm, we are ISO 27001 certified. So this actually gives the assurance to our client that whatever information that we're handling, we are assessing, we protect it well, and we follow the best practices. What about banks? If you are ISO 27001 certified, you're giving the assurance to your stakeholders, to your clients that you're following certain standards, managing security, managing their account details, account holders information. Even manufacturers, if you're coming from manufacturing sectors, follow ISO 27001, you protect your SCADA systems, protect your information assets, designs, right? It improves a lot in security management. So the next one I'm going to talk about is PCI DSS. May I know if PCI DSS is it popular in Vietnam, Mr. Lee? PCI DSS? Mr. Lee? Is it a popular requirement in Vietnam? Payment card industry data security standard. What about Thailand? Dr. Comment. Is it popular? Yeah. So payment card industry data security standard, although it's a standard that used to protect credit card data, but we do see a lot of organizations are using that to protect other information. PCI DSS consists of 12 requirements, and each of the 12 requirements has specific requirements to follow. So if you are a bank or if you are an organization that deals with credit card transactions, you accept credit cards, whether you're online acceptance, whether you accept credit cards through a conventional terminal, you are some way or another affected by PCI DSS. Right? Perhaps not now, you may not be pushed by your issuing banks, you may not be pushed by any third party for you to get compliance, but somehow or other you are affected by PCI DSS. So what does PCI DSS have to do with industry? right? For one that we see in Malaysia, if you are not PCI DSS certified or compliance, right? And let's say you are running a business online, you're running an auction website online, right? If you're not PCI DSS compliance, right, the service provider can tell you that they don't want to do your business. Right? They can ask you to go for somewhere else. They don't want to accept credit card payment on behalf of you. So indirectly, it also affects your business. Right? Another one example that what we see is that we have a client from a university in Malaysia. They accept credit card payment for the students to pay school fees, to pay the tuition fee. And the university also asked to get compliance with PCI DSS because the banks are not willing to let them use their credit card machines if they are not compliant with PCI DSS. So we start to see the trend is coming up. The banks, actually the issuing banks are most of the time are the ones who's pushing this standard down to the food chain. Right? Who will be the people who get affected? As long as any organizations that deals with card data, as long as you receive credit card transactions, somewhere or other you'll get affected. So this is happening in Malaysia big time. If you're not PCI DSS, the banks may not want you to accept credit card payments. They may not even issue a terminal, credit card terminal for you to use. Right? So perhaps we can get more information from Vietnam. Maybe understand more about Vietnam later. So, what is the consequences if you found not to comply with PCI DSS? The consequences is very severe, right? Because organizations like Visa, Master, JCB, American Express, they can impose fine on you if you found, if there's any cases like card losses, hackings, they can impose fine for you. So a fine in record breach can cost as much as 190, close to US $200 per record. So just imagine if you have about, let's say 10 million records, credit card records, transactions records, was stolen, was exposed, right? You just multiply this by 200 per record. That is a huge amount to pay as a fine. And this thing is not something hypothetical. It happened before, it happens in the US. If you do a look up on the news for the last 3 months, there are quite a number of banks was fined, right, because of the security breach, right? So it may not be happening as soon as what we see in Asia so far, because most of our, I would say 80% of our clients, LGMS clients, actually are banking industries, but we do see the trend is coming up very fast, right? So the cost of not getting compliant is very high. So back to the topic. If you do not get compliant, I mean the cost of protection, is it worth to invest rather than compare the cost of potential losses? Yes, it's definitely yes. Right. The next one, I believe most of central banks in ASEAN countries will have guidelines. So in Malaysia and Singapore, we're following our own guidelines. In Malaysia, we have GPIS1. In Singapore, we follow MAS. So in Vietnam, I believe that you also have certain guidelines from your central bank, the state bank. So same thing. In Malaysia, if you want to do online banking, right, the bank mandates that you have to get yourself to conduct penetration testing by a third party at least twice a year. If you are deploying e-commerce or e-banking applications online, it has to go through source code review by a third party to make sure that the source code are secure. So these are some of the requirements that are imposed by the state banks in Malaysia and Singapore. So no compliance, you can't launch. You cannot launch your application, you lose business. Right? So this is a cost of doing business nowadays. You have to get compliance. So ultimate strategies in building security. I think there's three things in helping the industry to understand security, which is education. Right? Education from the top management, the C-level management level, education from the working level management, education from everyone, the general public. Right? So let everyone know that everyone plays a role in security. So good security helps marketing, good marketing helps business. Ultimately, security is just to support business. Right? CSO, I always tell my staff, IT is to facilitate business, is to support business. Security, support IT, but not business to support IT. IT support business, right? So That basically brings to the end of my presentation, and I thank you for your patience, and hopefully we have more time for more quick Q&A